Morphology of flowering plant, chapter 5. We have 9 points in this chapter. The first introduction part is the wide-ranging the structure of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us. Even though the angiosperms show large diversity in external structures or morphology, they are also characterized by the presence of roots, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits. So in chapter 2 and 3, we talked about classification of plant based on the morphological and other characteristics. For any successful attempt at classification and at understanding at any higher plants, or for that matter any living organism, we need to know about the standard technical terms and standard definitions. We also need to know about the possible variations in different parts found in the adaptations of the plant to their environment, that is the adaptation to various habitats for protection, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have roots, stem, leaves, and they may be bearing flowers and fruits. The underground parts of the flowering plant is the root system, while the portion above the ground above is the shoot system. So here is a short introduction about the plants. What is morphology? So anatomy is something when we read about the internal structure of a plant. So morphology is that feature which we see, the feature which is an external structure, which is external, which we can see and distinguish, is morphology. So it's characterized by presence of some kind of roots, stem, leaves, flower, fruits. Chapter 2-3 we have discussed about plant classification, about animal classifications, and now we will discuss about in detail about the flowering plants in this chapter, where we will get to know about the adaptations to various habitat and its reason that why that adaptation may be for protection, that may be for climbing, storage, for multiple function that adaptations takes place. So we will read about that adaptations. If we pull out any weed, and an example is also given that we will pull out an weed, we will find that around every weed will have root, stem, leaves. It may be bearing flower or fruits. So why for flower and fruits it is called it is written as maybe? Because it is not necessary that every plant will flower. It is not necessary that every plant will give fruit. The underground part of the flowering, and then we have two portions. One portion is above, and the above portion is the shoot portion. The portion which is above the ground is a shoot system, and the portion which is below the ground is the root system. So first, the root. 5.1 topic, root. In majority of the dicotyledon plant, the direct elongations of the radicle leads to the formation of the primary root, which grows inside the soil. It bears lateral roots of several orders that are referred to as the secondary, tertiary, etc. roots, and the primary roots and its branches constitutes the taproot system. As a mustard plant, as in mustard plant. So in monocotyledonous plant, the primary root is short-lived and replaced by a large number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system, as seen in the wheat plant. In some plants, these like grasses, monstera, and the banyan tree root rises from the parts of the plant other than the radicals are called adventitious roots. The main function of the root system is absorption of water and minerals from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing reserve food materials, and synthesis of the plant growth regulators. So here we will come to know about three types of root, that is the taproot system, fibrous root system, and adventitious root system. The very first is the taproot system. What is taproot system? So primary root and its branches will constitute a root system that will be called as a taproot system, and its example is mustard plant. Monocotyledonous plant में जैसे कि जो रूट्स हैं इट विल ओरिजिनेट फ्रॉम द बेस ऑफ द स्टेम, जो स्टेम के बेस से अगर रूट ओरिजिनेट हो रहा है तो दैट विल बी कॉल्ड एज फाइब्रस रूट सिस्टम. उसका एग्जांपल है व्हीट प्लांट. उसके बाद में है एडवेंटिशियस रूट सिस्टम. तो एडवेंटिशियस रूट सिस्टम का मतलब है कुछ ऐसे प्लांट्स लाइक ग्रास, मॉन्स्ट्रा, बनियान ट्री जहां पर रूट अराइज ऐसे पोर्शन से करे which is not part of the plant other than the radical. मतलब कि प्लांट के रेडिकल वाले पार्ट को छोड़ के अदर पार्ट से अगर रूट ओरिजिनेट हो, that will be adventitious root system. It has also example. The example is grass, monstera, and banyan tree. Grass, monstera, and banyan tree. So example of taproot system is mustard plant. Example of fibrous root system is wheat plant. An example of adventitious root system is grass, monstera, and banyan tree. Grass, monstera, and banyan tree. The figure 5.1 shows the parts of the flowering plant. This is a part, root system, which is below the underground, and which is above the ground is shoot system. It constitutes of flower, fruit, stem, leaves, nodes, internodes, buds. And the root system constitutes of the primary root and the secondary root. The next figure of 5.2 figure is different types of roots as we have discussed. The first one is taproot system, where we have read about an example of a mustard plant. The second one is of a fibrous root system. Its example is wheat plant. And the third one, grass monstera and banyan tree, were the examples, is the adventitious root system. Third one is the adventitious root system. So this one is the taproot system. This one is the fibrous root system, and this one is the adventitious roots. Now we will read about a sequence which comes in the exam, and the sequence based on the figure 5.3, where we have a leveling of region of meristematic activity, root cap, above that region of elongation, above that region of maturations and root hairs. So this one is the top, this one is the bottom, and we have to read its sequence. The zone arrangement of the vertical section. The first one is root cap, then zone of meristem zone, and then the zone of elongation, then root hairs, the root hair zone, and finally the zone of maturation. Point number 5.1.1 discuss about the reasons of the roots, as on the figure. That the root is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure called the root cap. Protects the tender apex of the root and it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above, the root cap is a region of meristematic activity. The cell of this region is very small, thin-walled with a dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cell proximal to this region undergo rapid elongations and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the roots in length. This region is called the region of elongation. And the cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and matures. Hence, the zone proximal to the region of elongation is called the region of the maturation. And from this region, some of the epidermal cells form very fine and delicate thread-like structures called the root hairs. These root hairs absorb water and minerals from the soil. Absorbs the water and minerals from the soil. So, it has discussed about the root cap. That what is root cap? It is a thimble-like structure called root cap. And then what is its function? It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes a way through the soil, क्योंकि वो उसको रास्ता देता है पास होने के लिए. फ्यू मिलीमीटर उसके ऊपर में होगा मेरिस्टेमेटिक जोन, जिसका काम है मेरिस्टेमेटिक एक्टिविटीज, मतलब वो ग्रोथ बढ़ने में हेल्प करेगा. एंड देन रीजन सेल ऑफ दिस रीजन जो है बहुत स्मॉल होते हैं, थिन वॉल्ड होते हैं, डेंस प्रोटोप्लाज्म होता है, एंड दे डिवाइड रेपिटेडली बिकॉज द मेरिस्टेमेटिक एक्टिविटी का मतलब है डिवीजन. द सेल प्रॉक्सिमल टू दिस रीजन अंडरगो रैपिड एलोंगेशन, एंड इसके बाद में रैपिड एलोंगेशन होता है, एंड फिर फाइनली रीजन ऑफ मैच्योरेशन जहां पे मैच्योर होगा. फॉर दिस रीजन some of the epidermal cells form a very fine and delicate thread-like structures, and that delicate thread-like structures को बोलते हैं रूट हेयर्स. ये रूट हेयर्स का काम क्या होता है, इसका फंक्शन क्या होता है कि ये वाटर को एब्जॉर्ब करेगा एंड मिनरल्स को एब्जॉर्ब करेगा सॉइल से. नाउ द फाइनल पॉइंट ऑफ रूट, that is the modification of root, we will discuss in the next video.